I'm a nice guy.
That's why I picked you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment in Majora T Cast Returns. And we're returning Awe Spectacular with Awe de Spencer. That was almost European. What's up, Spencer?
Not much, man. It's a pleasure. I can't wait. I've been watching this show with all the different clips for forever, and I'm excited to be on it again.
Yay! It's been a while. You were on a Majora T Cast like years ago.
Yeah, like before the button mappers, right? Like in that time frame, but before it, I think. Yeah.
We did too. We did one on Dragon Quest, and we did one on something else, I think.
I'm sure there will be no overlap in
At
what we
all.
talk about.
Absolutely not. But unironically, we're going to plug your channel, RPG Archive. Woohoo! It's the birth of your channel.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun going back. Right now, honestly, it's just been a lot of going back and playing old games, but I can't wait. Eventually, we'll be starting some new ones. Actually, pretty soon, you and I are going to start a new one on here.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we want to spoil it, but that'll be really exciting.
There's no secrets here. I've been talking it up a bunch, but, you know, we did just finish Chrono Trigger. There's an excellent archived podcast of that with me, you, Console Kev, and ya boy, JD.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So. Yeah, no, that was super fun. And it seems like you're getting into the Chrono series, which is both exciting and a little bit disappointing because the one you're playing is pretty much it. So you can't go any further than that.
But,
unless you want to do Radical Dreamers, which nobody does.
That's true, and I don't necessarily do. But the benefit of Chrono is that it's endlessly enjoyable, and some might say timeless.
I would agree.
I thought of that. I thought we could kick off here with the fun question. If you could retire in any video game environment, where would it be?
Whoa. Well, most of what I like I can't do because I wouldn't like to live in the past. So any kind of world that doesn't have this, what we're doing right now, I would not like to be there. So that rules out most of them. Persona sounds fine. Except that I would be an adult, so everything that goes on in that game would be completely foreign to me, and hopefully it would be after the calamities of whatever they're doing. So, I guess it would be Persona.
Some kind of Neo Tokyo.
Yeah, or I guess I would avoid doing the SMT because those always just kind of depress me. So I wouldn't want to retire in there and just be collecting scraps for the rest of my life.
You don't want the Phantom Thieves on your back as an adult.
Yeah, I'll just have to be a good guy.
There you go. I was thinking I like the more waterfronty areas. So, you know, we're doing Chrono Cross right now, and I do like the Termina area. I like the little town where Korch is from. It's just nice, kind of residential, suburban. But also there's an area in Banjo-Tooie, which is not necessarily an RPG, but, you know, or some might consider it an RPG. I don't know. It depends on what people define RPG as. It's called Jolly Roger's Lagoon, and there's a fun area there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Chrono Cross is very pretty. It's very, very pretty. I'll just leave it at that. Like it would be very nice. That would be like the island retiring getaway.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that. But I guess you just have to keep playing, and we'll see if your answer is always going to be to retire in the Chrono Cross area.
There's going to be some apocalyptic scenario with any choice. Mario Bros. Oh, Bowser's come. So I'm willing to look past the end of the world scenario.
That's good.
In that case, I'd just make Majora's Mask. Oh, the moon's coming. Who knows? It looks great tonight.
Yeah. It keeps on coming and then it goes back up. I'm cool with that.
It has a face. Did you know the moon has a face?
Well, with Majora's Mask, that's an interesting one because hopefully you'd retire with like the 3 best days of your life, and you just kind of just get to repeat them.
That's true, but you never know that you repeated them. So unless you're Link, are you Link?
Maybe
you're Link in my book. So let's talk about I guess the theme of this is really just RPGs and what do they mean to you and why are they important. Take me back. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I mean, my love for it definitely begins in Chrono Trigger. I mean, I played Pokemon and loved it, but I didn't love. I think everyone's story with Pokemon's pretty similar. They didn't love it because it's an RPG. They loved it because it was an adventure with Pokemon. Uh, you could have made like something other, like a different kind of game, and people would have loved it anyway, or something. I don't, maybe not, but I didn't love RPGs. I just loved Pokemon, and that was it. And then I kind of hated RPGs for the most part. Like I'd seen Final Fantasy VII. I saw a friend play 9, and I was like, why do you just wait for people to hit you? I mean, ironically, I was just again playing Pokemon, but I just like why are you standing there and just letting them smack you? It's like, well, because it's their turn, and I'm like, why would you take turns in combat? Which, again, ironically, that's how people used to fight. Like in Europe, it was a turn-based game, which is again pretty mind-boggling. I can't even fathom that now. But and then Chrono Trigger happened. I was playing it at a friend's house. I played it on their emulator, on a Super Nintendo emulator. I'm like, what is this? It's like, oh, it's Chrono Trigger. It's a pretty good RPG. Like, whatever. And I just like dabbled in it. I'm like, oh my god, like I traveled through time. And I just love how quick it was. It didn't like mess around with you too much. It's just like you're back in time now. You got to fight these things. I loved the pace of it, and I just the characters just drew me in, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I immediately went home and learned how to do emulators and got that game and played all the way through it. And I hunted for that experience for about 2 years. That would be how I started with RPGs. How about you?
I owned Dragon Warrior Monsters on the Game Boy Color as well as Dragon Warrior 3. So I had some precursor to Dragon Quest 3 before we played it. And I did love that kind of adventure aspect, as well as just this strategizing element that comes with turn-based games that doesn't necessarily come with a lot of action style games. Kingdom Hearts. So sorry, I coughed. I don't know where that came from. But the turn-based thing was always hit close to home for me, as did some of the Dragon Quest elements. I don't know why Dragon Quest stayed so strong with me over the years. I guess I just really had that affection for raising my own teams and this kind of monster ranching thing. I did love Pokemon for a long time, but I don't know. I don't consider Pokemon's kind of its own thing aside from RPGs. And so the love of like the JRPG as we know it today came later. It came when I became exposed to the genre. I remember I was in Hawaii and I was just building up my game collection a little bit. I'd gone through college with my N64 and a copy of Mario Kart DS. That was it. But, you know, as a broke college kid, you don't have a lot of money. So one person on one of the military bases on Craigslist, remember when we used to use Craigslist to get stuff? They were selling 3 DS games complete for $10 a piece, and I took a bus ride out for about an hour just to get them. One of them was Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. I remember playing Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga and really enjoying that, which I guess would count as the kind of RPG that we know and love.
Yeah.
There was a second one I'm not remembering, and then there was Dragon Quest IV on the DS, and I adored Dragon Quest IV playing it, but I couldn't beat it. I was just getting stuck and I didn't want to use the walkthrough, and so I put it down for a while. And then eventually I moved back home, but I still had that copy, and I committed to playing it, and it was one of the first standard JRPGs I ever played and finished. I loved it so much. I was hunting that kind of experience like you. I went ahead, I played Persona 4. I got myself PS5. I got Persona 5 or PS4. I didn't get a PS5. Where was I? In the future.
Impressive.
I played Chrono Trigger on the DS. And I would collect a bunch of them. I got Batten Kaitos on the GameCube. I got a bunch of cool ones, and I really I got some pleasure out of like just experiencing this style of gameplay. When I got my 3DS and I upgraded, I really got it for Pokemon, but 2 games that I loved and I experienced were Fire Emblem Awakening and SMT4. And so I kind of planted my feet in multiple series that I really consider pivotal to my love of RPGs today.
Well, it's funny you say like you're hunting that experience. I think that was such a detriment to me. In a way, Chrono Trigger was a curse because I spent the next couple of years being like, okay, I need to recreate this feeling I had when I played Chrono Trigger. And I would plow through RPGs. I downloaded a Super Nintendo emulator. Like, obviously I had it. And I was like, all right, what are the RPGs? Let me Google it. What are the RPGs on the Super Nintendo? Final Fantasy IV. Put it in. This doesn't play like Chrono Trigger. Next. All right, Final Fantasy VI. This doesn't play like Chrono Trigger. Next. Yeah. This doesn't play like it. Okay, let me play some PlayStation games. Final Fantasy VII. Nope, not it. All right, what's next? And I'm going through. I'm just trying to duplicate like Chrono Trigger, which, to as much as I love Chrono Trigger, the beauty of what we're doing here about these games that they're so different, and so like they're trying to be something else, and I just did not understand that, and I was just hunting that, and I think nostalgia is such a killer, and I to this day I have to like train myself, like, just because this isn't like the thing that you're wanting doesn't mean it's bad. And because I might not Ford once had a really great quote. He said, if we gave people what they wanted, they would all have faster horses. And it's like, oh yeah, that's true. Like they'd be like, man, why don't you just make my horse faster? No, we'll make you a car. We'll do something crazy cool. So like, I've tried to refocus my brain to be like, okay, these RPGs are all different. So let me just try to experience what they're trying to do, and get all these new experiences. And I've had to do that, in the past like 15 years, just reprogram my brain to not be so one track minded, which is hard.
Yeah, I bet. Since then, have you found anything that has met your expectations or managed to surpass them, or at least like please you?
Oh yeah, certainly. During that hunt, I did find Earthbound. Obviously, if I'm digging through Super Nintendo RPGs, and that one I knew almost immediately. Like this, I love this for completely different reasons than Chrono Trigger, and so that earned its spot. Dragon Quest, I have a crazy story. Maybe we can get to that one later because I'm sure we're going to talk about it. But Dragon Quest is completely different. And Final Fantasy took me a while because from 7 on, they kind of played like Chrono Trigger, but weren't Chrono Trigger. So it was a little bit more difficult to see the nuance. I still think Chrono Trigger is a better game than Final Fantasy 7. But I know people love that game so much that it's hard to dissuade them because it's such like a staple in their childhood. But again, that's nostalgia. Like I just think it's a better game. But anyway, but Final Fantasy eventually I caught on to it a little more, and I'm a big fan of 9. So I mean, in Dragon Quest 11, I think is a better game than Chrono Trigger. It's just hard for me to replace it because I love Chrono Trigger so much. But Chrono Cross, you're playing through it right now. I think that game is better than Chrono Trigger in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a complete package in the same way, but there are tons of great RPGs out there, and for their own reasons. Like they serve their own purposes. Like Etrian Odyssey, if I just want to shut my brain off and go through dungeons, I mean, there's nothing better. Like it's just pure stats. So all those kinds of things, you just got to find the right game for what you're wanting at the moment.
That's kind of the beauty of RPGs too. Like I had that experience with Dragon Warrior 1 when we were playing it for the archive. I just, flick the podcast on or an audiobook, and I don't need to pay attention when I'm playing that game.
Yeah.
Do I need to hear the same 8-bit tracks on loop for like every 10 bars or whatever? No. So different strokes for different blokes. How do you reconcile that kind of rush to play through RPGs that you said you had a little bit ago?
How do I reconcile it?
You're saying like you were just hammering through RPGs when you're playing them.
Oh, I was discarding them immediately.
Yeah.
It was terrible. Horrible. I regret it incredibly, immensely. That's what I mean. Chrono Trigger was such a curse. I was just trying to make a game that would be that, and it just wasn't. So I would just toss it. So I've started like every big RPG that you can think of. I've probably started it, and then threw it away.
Oh, especially so that's what you meant. It's like you were doing like a little dip and dive or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd play 10 minutes. Yeah. I'd play 10 minutes of Final Fantasy IV. I'd be like, this doesn't play like Chrono Trigger. This is terrible. I'm out. It's not Chrono Trigger. It's a completely different game. But yeah.
But do you have a problem with like finishing an RPG in a week or something because like you're that committed to it?
No. I if I have any problem, well, for one, it takes me a while. Unless it can be mobile, it's going to take me a long time to beat it. If it's mobile, I mean, I'm going to play it on my phone, or I'm going to find a way to play it mobily and do it that way. The Switch, love it, wonderful. If it's a console RPG, it's probably going to take me a while. So I used to have a problem with finishing them because I would not get very far in them. Now I have pretty much made it a point to finish most of the RPGs that I play.
I see.
Do you have that kind of issue?
Yeah, I have the console issue. If I'm playing on console, it usually takes me a longer time, but my tastes have changed recently. I used to be all handheld all the way, 3DS, let's go. And I still love my 3DS for sure. I'll play some games on it, but as far as like, with an RPG, it's usually so good and so much of what I want that I want to take my time with it. I don't want to just hammer through it. And that's so adverse to the kind of content creation model that we have. And so one of the
Yeah.
things that I've done to sort of balance that is, I'll do my RPG logs. I'll do like 2 hours through the game or whatever, and that helps me pace it a little bit. And I think it's kind of nice that you're not on a schedule, so I don't have to feel pressured to finish Chrono Trigger by X date and time.
Yeah. That's funny you say that. So if the game gives me a reason to enjoy it, I will totally enjoy it. One thing I noticed with JRPGs that really bothers me is they try to hide how good they are, which is such a shame. Like Persona 4, I really, really like that game and I've beaten it. I'm not saying I haven't, but they're like, no, the real ending is this one, and you got to do this. It's like, why don't you just tell me? Like, why do I have to like dig through the game and do this stuff? Like if you have a good thing, just let me know or make it really, really obvious, or do something where I don't have to replay the game because I'm a busy guy. Like I don't have all that time, and if you're gonna make it really hard to find it, I'm probably gonna miss it, and it's such a shame to me because there's so many good things about these games that I probably never saw.
Did Persona 4 have like an alternate ending or something?
Yes.
Ooh.
And I got the bad ending. I found out later, and it's like, well, you just replay it and you'll get it. It's like it's a 40-hour game that I'm gonna have to read the dialogue over that I've already read. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna replay that.
Sometimes the choice stuff drives me crazy. When I played SMT4, I was trying to play. There's two paths you can go down, and there's like a middle path where the game just stops at 20 hours, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not really an ending.
Oh god.
You can go with the angels, and you can go with Jonathan, or you can go with the demons and go with Walter. I wanted to go with Walter, and so I tried making the choices that I thought aligned with Walter. And I think I made like one or two good decisions in the path, and I ended up getting stuck with Jonathan. I'm like, the hell, game. Now I have to go replay that entire beginning segment just to go with Walter. And so I went through the whole playthrough just furious that, I was stuck on Jonathan's path, and the game ended up being fine. But like Walter's like talking to you like, God, how could you? You sided with the enemy. I'm like, I didn't choose this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes that kind of stuff drives me nuts. Go ahead.
Well, I just wrapped up KOTOR. That spoiler alert, it'll be the next video on RPG Archive. And that game is really, really cool in the choices, and that kind of invented for console players that idea of choice, because it's one of the original CRPGs that would actually come out on a console and do well. So when you're given choice, it's really cool to see it play immediately and to understand the consequences of reactions, which it doesn't. It sort of hides it though, which is unfortunate. Like it'll tell you what you should like give you the options of what you can say or decisions you can make, but it doesn't tell you what the later ramifications are, which is both a blessing and a curse because sometimes that happens where it's like I'm just trying to think of something like you can do one thing and not realize that this guy is going to hate that you did that, and then it ruins that choice later. And so that stuff, it's a little more forgiving in that kind of game though, because you make a million choices. So it's like, oh, that's the one, and there's going to be a million other things. So, but in JRPGs, I just noticed that like some of those things are like the difference between one path and the other path in the entire game. And they're so branching. It's like you didn't just you just like ruined my experience just because you're an asshole. Like it's crazy how they do that. I don't like that.
Me neither. I think it's insensitive. How dare they, those RPG makers? Speaking of enjoyment and like maximizing your enjoyment of an RPG, what would you say is like the ideal way that you enjoy RPGs? The answer could range. It's kind of broad. I'm leaving it broad intentionally.
Okay, I'm about to describe Dragon Quest, but bright and happy. I have this rule in my head, and it's unfortunate, but it's true to me. Is that if I'm going to save a world, I think it deserves to be it needs to be worthy of being saved. If your world is full of hookers and like everyone's depressed and all the kings are corrupt, it's like, why am I gonna save you? Like in The Witcher 3, I love the game, I really do, but it's not my ideal world. I hate everybody in it. I want them all to die. Even if the ones that I do a quest for and it's like, oh, thanks for saving my sister. It's like, yeah, but I kind of want to kill you because you're a piece of shit. And like, it's just, that's how the game is. And it's like, why? Whereas Dragon Quest, it's so sunny and bright. And it's like, these people are like, oh, I'm just making my bread in the morning, or I'm getting the water and I got to feed my kids. It's like, oh, okay. Like, they're trying to make it work. Like, I should save them from this disaster. So bright and sunny worlds are important to me, and I like the bright colors and positivity in the games. That's one of the most important things, which you wouldn't think, but to me, that's just it's so important that people just seem happy and want to live. Stats, I like stats. I'm a big numbers guy, so stats matter. Not as much as you might think, though. And I want customization, but only to a limit. You don't need 50 systems. Once you get too many systems going on, my brain is checked out and is not, and we'll probably just ignore it. And you'll be like, oh, you could have equipped your third artifact with 3 gems that could have increased the damage by 0.5%. It's like, oh, sorry. I missed it. Just 3 systems max is where I'm good at. And Dragon Quest usually falls, especially the newer ones, falls into that category. How about you, man? What when you play an RPG, what gets your goat?
I don't know. I think well, I love Dragon Quest 2, not Dragon Quest 2, but I do love Dragon Quest as well. And while I think it's important to note the cheerfulness and kind of the jubilance of the characters and the environments, tragedy is a main element in the Dragon Quest games. And so while everything does seem happy and etc., there are some real tragedies going on. There's like famines and plagues in different towns. And, that happens a lot in a lot of these Dragon Quest games. A whole town will be desiccated and you go into a cave and, I think part of it's just how real it is and it seems, and your importance. Also, just kind of like, I need to buy into it. Like, I don't, like I know you wouldn't let me go into this in your Chrono Trigger archive about like Chrono Trigger versus Final Fantasy VII, but Final Fantasy, it's just a bunch of magic stuff. Like I don't, and a little bit of magic's okay, that's fine, but I need to be pulled in, I guess you would say.
I feel you. I totally feel you. The first thing you said about the tragedy is so true. But to me, that's what makes it good, is if the world is happy and then a bad thing happens, well, then it's tragic. If the world is shitty and a bad thing happens, well, that's just the world. Like, yeah. I don't care. So in Dragon Quest, it's perfect because the tragedies actually matter. The tragedies are like, oh, God, everyone was so happy and now they're so sad. With the Final Fantasy thing, I totally agree, especially in the PS1 era. And that might apply to more Square Enix or Squaresoft games in general at that time. But everything is like, oh, you're a kid in the world, right? You're like a little kid. And then at the end of the game, you're fighting the end of reality, who's going to cast a spell that will destroy time and all of its continuum. Like, wow. Like, just I was in a village like 5 minutes ago, like learning about what a fire spell does. Like, chill. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But they use it. I think they use it as a crutch to avoid, making sense and telling a logical story. They're like, oh, magic did it.
The Metal Gear Solid plot hole.
Yeah.
The nanobytes.
The nanobytes.
So, what are some of your favorite and your least favorite settings for RPGs?
My favorite setting is, unfortunately, again, the Dragon Quest setting. It's that because there's so much you can do with it. Combat is just so much. It makes so much more sense.
Did you have a particular Dragon Quest that had like that you were just like, man, I am invested into this world and these characters?
Okay, earlier I said I was going to talk about Dragon Quest story about getting into it, so I'll say it now. It would be Dragon Quest 8. And Dragon Quest 8 was incredible because I bought that game so I could play the demo of Final Fantasy 12. Came packaged with it. And I was like, Final Fantasy 12 is going to be that Final Fantasy that I get into and be my first big Final Fantasy that I beat and that I celebrate and everything. So I bought Dragon Quest 8, tossed it aside. This is crap. Let me put in Final Fantasy 12. Oh, cool. I played the demo. Game's kind of boring. Final Fantasy 12. Sorry if you're a big Final Fantasy 12 fan. It's kind of boring. And I was like, all right, well, I did get this game. Let me put it in. Oh, it kind of looks like a Disney World. That's kind of weird. Like it's like a Disney cartoon. It's beautiful cell shaded graphics. The characters are like, oh, you, I can't find my dad's ball, like his magic ball. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And it's like, it's under that waterfall. Okay. Holy shit, this game's kind of hard. Like it's bright and sunny, but it's kind of hard. Oh, I got to grind a little bit. Okay. And now I'm suddenly sucked into it. So that's the world that I like. Is that sensible world where it's hard, but swords. Like I can understand why a sword would be there. I can understand why a bow would be there. So you got your ranged, you got your melee. That world of just fantasy, I think, is perfect for RPGs. When you start to stray from that, when you have futuristic stuff, my brain, I don't like it as much. My brain, it starts questioning things. It's like, why is there melee in a futuristic world where there's laser beams? Like that doesn't really make any sense. And I don't know. I don't like the future so much because I think it's kind of goofy when people predict the future.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's really interesting you bring it up, like thinking of it like that, like swords and laser beams, because even though we mentioned real, like there are no real monsters. We don't think of like, Zoma, like the evil Grandmaster Wizard, or like Hargon, like the demon that's risen from the, like, I mean, it depends how religious you are, I guess, but we don't think like in our own existence of fights like those, but the gravity of those fights in Dragon Quest is so real because you would imagine that they would be as hefty as they are. Cloud with a big sword, I don't see him being like a super attacker in a Final Fantasy game. Like I don't see him in Sephiroth. Like I don't. Like he's a mutant, okay. And then he rides a cloud, okay, whatever. So I've lost my believability with Final Fantasy VII, but with Dragon Quest, it always remains germane to your experience and to your character. And
Absolutely.
the plot lines are just so well written. I always go back to Dragon Quest V, but it just hits so close to home. Thinking about the journey with your dad, thinking about the loss that's incurred, and also just your development over the course of the narrative. I did love that about Dragon Quest VIII too, and it just kind of like you get thrown into it. There's no tutorials or nothing. It's like you're going with like a little trog or whatever. He's got his caravan, and then there's a horse, and he talks to the horse, and you find out more as you go. Dragon Quest VIII is really excellent.
And how subtle is it?
Very.
How subtle are those games? Oh my god! Contrast that. I don't know if you played Final Fantasy 13.
An hour.
Okay, well then you know exactly what I'm about to say. Is that it starts off with Lightning doing a backflip out of a train and shooting everything with guns, and then switching to a sword and like slashing people to death. And you're not controlling any of that. It's just kind of happening on screen. Great. Whereas Dragon Quest switches over, you're riding in a caravan, and you've got a sword, and you get attacked by two slimes, and you kind of just have to deal with it. Like it's the differences of these two games. It's so mind-boggling that they even exist in the same world. I just think the Final Fantasy thing is so overblown and so crazy, and I just love how homey Dragon Quest feels and just simple.
Yeah.
And the numbers. Apparently, I triggered my phone to ask me if my phone was listening to the conversation. I think it's a Final Fantasy 13 fan. The numbers, like when you play a Dragon Quest game, how much damage do you do at the beginning of the game?
8.
6 damage.
Yeah, nothing.
Like, and then I play a Final Fantasy game. It's like you've done 350 damage. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what does 350 mean? and I have like 1,500 health. Like, why? Like, what could I possibly? I'm level 1. What does that? What do those numbers mean? I just like how Dragon Quest is so simple, and I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. But so powerful. We talked a lot about Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and I guess kind of the Square Enix RPG, and then a little bit of Earthbound too. Um, what, what do you feel like you would like to explore going forward in RPGs?
As far as like different games or different
Anything, whatever you want to do with RPGs going forward. Are there certain games you want to play? Is there a series you want to tap into? Are there games you want to replay?
Well, I will be playing Yakuza at some point this year. I have that RPG ready.
Like a Dragon?
Yeah, just hasn't come up.
Yeah.
So
It'll come up.
It'll come up. That'll be played at some point, and I'm really excited. I'm playing Nier right now. Nier Replicant, which just came out, and I'm loving it. I really am. I'm looking for a new experience. I don't know what that means, but I'm looking for something different. And what scares me is it could come from anywhere. It could come from a classic game. It could come from a newer game. It could be something from like a Valkyrie profile. Like I know Terry's really big into that, and maybe that's the game. I tried one on the PSP. I did not like it, but that doesn't mean I won't like the original. Like I think 2 is considered the good one. So it could be something as going back to a classic game and experiencing it and realizing that that game got made, because there's so many great games that I just haven't even touched, and that's unfortunate. I think I'll be digging slightly into action RPGs here, because I want to get into the Ys series as well. So it's possible I'll be slipping into that, but I'm not super sure how I feel about action RPGs. Kingdom Hearts really burned me on them. I think that series is such a crapshoot. I'm surprised it's so successful. How about you? Do you have any challenging games you want to challenge yourself with?
I mean, we're on the Dragon Quest sabbatical, so that's my big thing. Is we finished 1 through 3, and that was momentous for me. I've resolved to play these games, and I've always thought to myself, I never have the time. I'll never be able to do this. But we showed that I can. We did that in 3 months, and so. Those are some of the shorter
and now
ones.
we get the good ones.
Exactly. Now we get the good ones. But Chrono Trigger derailed me a little bit on that. But I did love Chrono Trigger so much, I really wanted to go into Chrono Cross. And then, this is a big year for SMT. So I would like to do SMT 3 when that re-releases. Play some of the PS2 ones. And SMT 5 eventually, if that ever comes out. So Dragon Quest and SMT, just to really put my foot deeper into those series. They're already pretty far down. Like I've done my share, for Dragon Quest. I've finished 5 of the mainline games, and that really only leaves a few more. But yeah, I'd really like to be able to say I did it. I cleared them. Look, Ma, I'm I have the ultimate party here. You want to join? Ma, join the party.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, it was so cool to see us beat those 3 games, because they're so important to the beginning of RPGs. Especially in America. I know they're in Japan, they're big over there too, but the history is there. And I fear at some point we're gonna have to play Final Fantasy 1, 2. I don't know if that's gonna be a Wii thing or maybe me and somebody else, but I don't have the same love for those games. And 2 especially, I'm not looking forward to, but I'm sure at some point I'll have to do that one. Are you familiar with 2?
I've heard the horror stories. I have the games on PS1, so I mean, we'll talk about it when the time comes, but we can wait a little bit.
Okay, good. Yeah, no. I am excited to do the other Final Fantasies. 4 and up. 3 maybe, but 4 and up is I'm pretty excited to do, and I'm sure at some point that'll be tackled. But yeah, the whole RPG archive thing has been so good for me. It's really gotten me to really truck through a lot of games. And granted, so far I've beaten all these games, so it's not new, but it's nice to go through them and then eventually, bust out with something new.
Yeah, I love seeing it. I love seeing you be able to have your own channel to really dish out some solid, strong RPG content, because that's what you love. And I'm just happy to see that come to fruition.
Thanks, man. It's been super fun.
Yeah. Like you were saying about the first 3 Dragon Quests, they were instrumental in RPGs, and they're also instrumental in RPG Archive. They were the foundation, and it's only up from there. Like to 4, because that's up from 3.
Yeah. My math skills have proven me correct on that. I'm pretty sure 4 is the next one.
You are the math guy. I'm deferring to you. Any last words for the viewers?
No. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. And hopefully everybody can play a good RPG for me out there.
Yep.
No matter what it is.
Let them know. Let us know in the comments below what RPG are you playing and what's one you're looking forward to. And join Spencer, for the love of God, over on RPG Archive, his YouTube channel, and Apple Podcasts. And I don't know if it's on any other podcasting platforms, but if it is, you should check it out. Thanks for stopping by, ladies and gentlemen. Spencer, pleasure as always.
Thank you. Pleasure, man.
And like we say on your channel, as far as this Majora T cast goes, can you do the honors?
Consider it archived.
Ain't that the truth?